Laurie, you're unmuted. Do you want to share how things are going for you?
Sure. Hey, am I muted or unmuted?
You're unmuted.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, bless your soul, Louise, for being here, even if you're feeling so sick. That's so sweet of you. Yeah, it's been an incredible journey. It's far, far, far more intense than I ever thought it would be so far. Physically challenging. We all went through some purging, I think, or some releasing through the body, and you're going through it now. Yeah. The Venus, the day the Venus was going into the heart of the sun, started a 3-day really deep dive for me into some kind of, I don't know, stillness, supposed, I guess, like bed seeking, hiding from the world. Getting out of bed, going back to bed. It was kind of cool. And now I'm coming out the other end, and I'm in a more of a forward movement, creative, a hopeful space again, as we're going into that morning star as well. So that kind of feels right. Yeah.
Cool.
But it's just been incredible to be so consciously aware and so interactive with the archetypes rather than to do this unconsciously. That has been a supreme gift for me, Louise. Thank you.
I know. I mean, that's the big thing about it for me. I mean, it's kind of happening anyway, isn't it? The retrograde. But to do it consciously just makes it such a difference. Would anybody else like to share where they're at? Excuse me, guys, if I'm coughing. I have a tickle right here.
Me. It's Jenna.
Who's this?
It's Jenna.
Oh, hi, Jenna. So,
Hi.
how is it for you?
Oh my God. Things have been very, very intense. I've had extreme highs and extreme lows. I just got this job where I am working. You know the little boy I have been babysitting, my old neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
He was just diagnosed with autism. So they asked me to be his behavioral interventionalist. So I was trained in this whole new avenue of work where I'm actually doing behavioral therapy with him. And I was hired by another family too. So now I have that job with two families, and I'm also doing photography, which has been like, I'm fully booked from now until November 17th.
Whoa.
So it's like, both things are very, very busy and demanding. And then I've also had my kids and Halloween, and this, like, just everything has been extremely overwhelming and busy. And then I got sick. So,
of course.
yeah.
But are you like me, not sick enough not to be able to keep going? So.
Yeah, exactly. I just take Tylenol and
Yeah, exactly.
And kind of numb the headache a little bit and go through with it. But yeah.
So good. Oh, so we're going to be shifting the energies a bit today, because Venus moved back into Libra about 20 minutes ago. So this call was perfect timing for that. Before we move on, does anybody else want to share quickly, or I'm just going to get going? Nope. Okay, you can put it in the chat if you do want to share, or if there's anything you want to share. Oh, so thank you for all bearing with me the fact that I was in Kauai for the Kazemi, for Venus being kissed by the sun. I almost didn't do this class because all this travel came up around this time, but I couldn't not do it. So the calls had to go around it, and it's always perfect, as everything always is. And the fact that I didn't do the Kazemi call meant that you were able to, and I were all able to kind of sink into that really dark period for Venus, or lit period, even if she's kissed by the sun, but we can't see Venus. And here we are today. She's back visible again, very early as the morning star, like very briefly for now though. And she will be the morning star for the next 9 months before then she starts to dip back down to be the evening star. So she will meet the sun again in 9 months time and switch from morning to evening star. So, okay. So I'm going to pull a card. And we have quite a big day today, journey-wise. So I'll talk about that in a minute. Oh, interesting. Now, Venus has moved back into, oh, you're welcome, Melanie. Venus has moved, oh, I'm frozen. Can everybody still hear me? I'm back. Venus has moved back into Libra, which is an air sign. And air signs are more of the mind. So we're going kind of more into a thinking phase than we've been in. Venus in Scorpio is very deep feelings because it's a water sign. And I get, this is actually Jupiter in Gemini, but it's an air card, it's swords. I get the interference card. And that kind of really, I'm not even going to look up what the book says for the meaning. So I'm just going to go with what I feel it is for me. It's that Jupiter's in, she's retrograde. She's just opposed Uranus yesterday, forming this grand cross with the nodes. Another real pivot point in this retrograde, another real changing time. And interference indicates kind of shaking things up a bit. Kind of she's still retrograde. She's coming from this depths of Scorpio, the deepest water, into an air sign, and now our minds are kind of going, whoa, what's being shaken up here? That kind of feeling. That's what it feels like to me. So that's the card for kind of where we're at right now in the retrograde. Now, because she's just gone back into the into Libra, if I can without choking, no, I'm going to do it. Read the symbols for this degree of Libra, the last degree of Libra, which she's moving back into. And then I have a few other things I want to talk about, and then we're going to go into the work. So a black rooster, this is the Chandra symbol, proclaiming the gospel of the complex interplay of light and darkness. And you know, that light and darkness, the Scorpio could be seen as the darkness and Libra as the lightness. They always seem very light, dark in some ways, in that yin yang kind of feeling. Invoking the power of the soul's journey through all of the worlds, poised at the brink of every conceivable possibility, but lingering over the darkness, that which is not yet complete, that which still must be encompassed, motivated sharply to affirm and acknowledge all sides of life, every possible variation. You are quintessentially driven to bring everything up and out. The creative artist who purges whatever is in there. The veteran life journeyer who discovers yet again how much more there is than anybody has yet to admit. And the astute observer who delights in the multiplicity, the baffling complexity, the unresolvable, open-ended nature of it all. You get almost perverse thrill in overturning partial and fragmentary, naive and simplistic false starts. Most vitally committed to coming up with the hidden element and making sure that it finds its place, that it is done justice to, but not dwelled upon overlong. Because here comes the next and then the next. The journey itself is the point, and each juncture is the destination. So I'll copy the words of that into the into the group. It seems very kind of very dense to me, this one. And you know, Libra is very good. I laugh that it says something about, you know, acknowledging all sides of life and every possible variation, because Libra's always weighing up the odds, trying to bring everything into center to the balance and looking at all sides. Libra is the mediator who can sit back and, adjudicate all sides as well. So we're getting into this point in the retrograde, this particular retrograde, where we are at that teeter-totter, that seesaw, trying to get to the middle and looking at all sides and coming back to the middle again and bringing all these complex things together. Just one little aside, I have to laugh that it says Black Rooster, because I don't know if any of you have been to Kauai in recent years. And after one of the hurricanes that hit the island, a load of chickens got out, and there's chickens just everywhere in Kauai, and I mean everywhere. People told me that there were chickens, and I had no idea. They're at the side of the road, they're in the stores, they're in the cafes. They're just walking around everywhere, all these chickens. You get woken up every morning by this chorus of roosters. And here we have the day after I get back from the trip with this saying a black rooster. And I saw black roosters there. So Black Rooster, I think, has a bit of a message for me in this retrograde, at least, and probably for all of you. So the Sabian symbol for this degree as well is 3 mounds of knowledge on a philosopher's head. So here we are back in the mental phase again. A fulfillment of man's power of understanding at whatever level of existence the person operates. And kind of the words at the end of this are a holistic approach to knowledge. So really they're kind of saying the same thing. They're bringing everything together. So in this second stage, or the second half of the retrograde, we are beginning to put everything together. Okay. After going deep. Right. So I did want to look at the astrology for a minute, because there's a couple of things I want to mention before I go back to me. And I'm just going to talk about it. I'm not actually going to I'm not going to show the chart. Now, late today, Ceres, now I mentioned that Venus yesterday opposed Uranus. Venus was at 0 of Libra and Uranus was at 0 Taurus, and the moon's nodes are at 0 Aries and 0 Aquarius and Leo, forming this grand cross. And this is a very dynamic but very tense aspect, where it can be very difficult to kind of really know which way to go. It can be a bit headless chicken. But Mercury moved into Sagittarius yesterday and is now at 0 Sagittarius. So Mercury was aspecting some of these other things, particularly the nodes at 0 degrees. So what's my point here? Mercury into Sagittarius means we're going to start thinking about what's true for us. And we're going to start thinking about where we're going, goals, future. We're going to be able to start stepping back and seeing this bigger picture after this other turning point that we reached yesterday. So there's that. And also Mercury is now on my Mercury. So my blog post this morning was really long because Mercury's triggering my Mercury. So I'll be writing and talking a lot when I can, probably writing. But today, as I said, Venus is now moved back to the 29 degrees of Libra. But later today, like kind of just before midnight for us on the west coast of the States, So it'll be a bit tomorrow for some of you. Ceres, now here's where, let me get my head around this. Ceres is also known as Demeter. She was the mother of Persephone. And Persephone, in the myth, the rape of Persephone, was kidnapped and taken down into Hades by Pluto, or by Hades, whichever name you want to give him, and taken to the underworld and raped. And long story short, you know, Ceres was her mom, or Demeter, and she was grieving and mourning. And there's a lot more to the myth. We can go and look up the myths if you like. But it suddenly occurred to me that all these myths really have the same theme, and somebody's probably come up with this before, but I was like, Persephone, it's like Venus going, or Inanna, going down into the underworld and being killed or raped, whichever you want to call it. Persephone was kind of reborn but had to come into balance, okay? And spend 6 months below in Hades and 6 months above ground with her mom. And then here we have Inanna, or Venus, going down into the underworld. And to go back to Yasmin's comment that I read in the last call, is Ereshkigal giving birth, the darker twin, if you like, giving birth or being pregnant, was kind of giving birth to the integrated Inanna, who was both yin and yang. So they're almost the same person. Venus, Persephone, is what I'm saying. So later tonight, Ceres reaches the exact degree that Venus will turn direct out on November the 16th. And then they gradually swap places. And whereas Venus made that grand cross yesterday with the nodes and with Uranus, on November the 9th and 10th, November the 10th really, Ceres will make a grand cross at the 29th degree with Uranus and the nodes, because the nodes and Uranus will both have moved back into Aries, that's Uranus, and then Cancer and Capricorn, the moon's nodes. Now they're moving from fixed signs. I'll answer in a second. We're moving from a fixed grand cross to a cardinal grand cross. Cardinal likes to initiate the new. So we are moving into a new way. And Ceres represents unconditional love, grief, forgiveness. And so she's almost swapping places with Venus on this retrograde. I don't know if I've ever seen this before, and especially tied with the karma and dharma of the moon's nodes, the south node being our karmic lessons and the dharma being the lessons we are to learn, and Uranus going back into Aries to revisit some more of the who am I kind of energy. So there's a lot more I could say about this, but all I wanted to kind of talk about is that we've got big themes coming up towards the end of the retrograde of grief and forgiveness and unconditional love, and kind of moving into this balance, real balance of acceptance of the half dark and the half light, the half yin, the half yang. Does that make sense? There's amazing balancing coming in here. Okay, cool. So Melanie's question. So essentially a bit of pain or darkness before a rebirth. If I were to be, yeah. I mean, that's what the whole retrograde's about, really. We do go into some pain and darkness, and then we are reborn. So that's what I wanted to talk about, the astrology. Was there anything else with that? No, I don't think so. So we are going to do soul retrieval today. All right, but first I think we're just going to do the little meditation to go through the fourth gate. And I'm swapping how I do this. Okay, because so I'm going to talk quite a bit about soul retrieval, and we're going to do it, and then we're going to talk about it afterwards, and we're going to talk about how to integrate it. So we're going to talk about what it is, what we're going to be doing, and then afterwards we're going to talk about how to work with the soul retrieval, because soul retrieval is one of the most powerful healing journeys in shamanic practice, to my mind. But there are others as well, but this is one of them. You could imagine yourself, if you haven't done the third yet, you could do it. You could just take the necklace off and the breastplate at the same time. Okay. So on the third one, so you could do the third gate and then do the second, then do the fourth. So the third for Jenna or anybody else who's here that hasn't managed to do it yet, was the third gate was the gatekeeper removing the double strand of beads necklace, which is the throat chakra, which is the rapture of illumination. Okay. And then today, it's the fourth gate, and it's the breastplate, which has got "Come Man Come" written on it, which is the emotional heart or heart chakra. And really, this could be seen as the outer trappings that women or anybody uses to attract the other sex, really. Okay. But just imagine a breastplate, okay, and giving up the need to do that or anything that stops you coming from the heart. This kind of feels very an important gate, the fourth gate, to me, because we're right at the end of the North Node in Leo, which is ruled by the sun, which is the heart, big-heartedness. I've been talking for 18 months about following your heart's desire and removing whatever's stopping you from following your heart's desire. And so this breastplate chakra the heart chakra feels really important. So if you would just sit back, put your feet on the ground, and with your eyes closed, let out your breath 3 times with a soft ah. And when all the breath is released, just wait until you allow your breath to come back in. And I'm going to let you do that while I just have a drink. And when you've done your 3 breaths, I want you to picture yourself back at your starting point, in where you get left off in the last call. And you come up to the gatekeeper. And for Jenna, just quickly take off the double beaded necklace and give it to the gatekeeper at the third. And then at the fourth gate, the gatekeeper asks, are you willing to let go of looking good? Are you willing to let all of yourself be seen? Not just the attractive parts. Also, by extension, do you need your relationship to look good in front of others? Are you more focused on surface or substance? Then take your breastplate off, opening your heart up. And leave it at the gate. And the gatekeeper will let you pass. Ready to get down to the fifth gate. And when you're ready, come back to the room and open your eyes. And we're going to move on to soul retrieval. Now, this is, if you ever want a book on soul retrieval, okay. I studied shamanism and was initiated into shamanic practices in the core shamanism. Sandra Ingerman, you got the beginner's journey book if you bought that. She writes a whole book on soul retrieval, which is quite amazing. And she tells stories of it. But basically what soul retrieval is what she said. It's mending the fragmented self. Okay. So all throughout life, you know, she was your first teacher. She's amazing. Amazing, isn't she? She's, no, I studied with somebody who'd studied with her. So it's all kind of that, you know, kind of lineage, if you like. So, it's like my astrology teacher was one of Stephen Forrest's first apprentices. So whilst I have done some work directly with Stephen Forrest, I kind of learned from, you know, those that learned under him. But then I also started my shamanic practice learning probably about the same time as you, Laurie. No, it would have been before that. Oh no, it was way before. 10 years before, when I started getting invited to some real native ceremonies and sweat lodges and things, proper ones, where we'd go off in the woods and build the sweat lodge in the woods. But anyway, I digress. So I found a really good metaphor for soul retrieval. Okay. If you think of your soul as your mirror image looking back at you while you look in the mirror, a sudden impact breaks the mirror. It shakes, some pieces fall off and scatter. They may land on the ground counter or down on the floor below, but now the mirror is marked by cracks with chunks missing, and the image looking back at you is just fragmented. soul retrieval is like finding the pieces of the mirror that have gone missing and restoring it. Once you've done soul retrieval, usually more than once, you kind of see yourself as looking less fragmented. So soul retrieval is a journey to wholeness. Okay. Now, there can be to describe, nothing is lesser than, but sometimes they're bigger chunks that are missing and sometimes they're little ones. And what causes soul loss or soul fragmentation? Any kind of trauma during your life. So, it could be, it could be real bad trauma as a child. So even if you've had a soul retrieval in the person, yeah, it's totally possible you need more. Yeah. So, we can have multiple soul retrievals because there's the major ones. I did a soul retrieval for somebody whose father had been really abusive. And in the soul retrieval I did, this particular soul loss episode was where I found her crouched in a hallway as a young child, about 7, with a severe beating of one of her brothers happening in the room next door. And in the soul retrieval journey, we could see and hear the beating. And this child, I'm not going to name the person, obviously, was cowering away from the beating because this is what was happening in the house all the time. So there had been soul retrieval for soul loss when she had received a beating, but there was another piece that was hurt by her brother being beaten. Now, it doesn't always have to be that traumatic. One of my main soul fragmentation pieces was me as a 5-year-old. I was, I'm a Sagittarius with Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Sun in Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. And Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius is so happy-go-lucky and optimistic generally, and very bright and skippy and hoppy kind of thing, especially with a Gemini moon. And I was a bit too much for my family, really, and they wanted to dim my shininess because, I was one of those obnoxious children who was just like jumping around all over the place completely all the time. Now, there was no beating or anything for this one, but it was the message from the soul retrieval for my 5-year-old soul part was be in your brilliance. It was the bit of me that had been dimmed, okay, by being told I was too much, too this, too that, So do you get the idea that, this can bring up traumatic memories? Or it can bring back something hurtful that somebody said to you at some time, so that a piece of you fragmented. It doesn't have to be, beatings or rape or things like that, though it might be. So be prepared to trust what you get. Be prepared that it may bring up some painful memories. Okay. But what we're going to do in this soul retrieval journey is we're going to focus on, we're going to start the drum journey, and we're going to do a longer journey for this because you may find one soul part, you may find more than one, but you are going to really focus on asking your spirit guides to help you seek soul parts of yourself that are fragmented off, that will help you to find wholeness during this particular Venus retrograde. You don't have to be any more specific than that. Then, as the drum carries on, you and your spirit guides will go wherever you're taken. It could be middle world. It could be lower world where, you know, you go down, or it could be upper world. This rarely in the upper world. It's usually middle or lower world where soul parts hang out. Because you're going to be asked to be taken to find these soul parts. Again, you're going to trust what you get. You're going to come across a soul part, more than likely. And you're going to have a conversation. You're going to ask the soul part why they're there. If they are, firstly, if they are a fragmented part of your soul, then ask them why they're there. And this is usually when you'll get the story of why the soul part fragmented. And then most importantly, you're going to ask them if they're ready to come back. Okay, they may not be. And if not, say, you know, can I come back again another time and see if you're ready? And they'll say yes or no, whichever. Always trust what you get. Then ask them if they're prepared to come back. Ask them to accompany you to see if there's any other pieces of fragmented soul. And keep doing that until you feel complete. The most I've ever known anybody recover and bring back in one soul retrieval journey is 3. There may be other instances where there's more. Usually it's 1 or 2. Okay. And then when you feel complete, when you feel you've found the soul parts necessary for this Venus retrograde journey, ask them to come back with you. And then all of you will return to the space we're in. And when we come back at the end of the drum journey, take a little time, write out what's happened. And then we're going to come back at the end of the drum journey and talk about how to integrate this soul part. Now, because of this damn cough, I might put the drum journey on and disappear from the room for 20 minutes. And I'll come back at the end. I don't want to be coughing over you while you're trying to do a journey. That's kind of a bit distracting. So if you all want to get ready to do your journey, this is a 20-minute one, okay? I'm going to turn the mic around. Turn off my video. And get ready to retrieve your soul. Okay. I'll just give you a couple of minutes to journal, unless anybody already completed it and wants to share anything already. You don't have to share. Oh, hang on, let me turn the mic around. You don't have to share this part yet, at least. I'd love it if people would share, but you don't have to do it right now, is what I mean, because sometimes this can be a little bit overwhelming. So just take notes quickly that you would remind you, if you haven't done already, of what the message of the soul part or parts was. I'll just put my video back on. Did anybody have more than one? Just one? Just two? I'm just kind of passing time. Just one, yeah. A few, wow, cool. Well, not one's cool too. You know, it's whatever you need, whatever is right for you. Okay. So I want to talk about integrating these soul parts. Now, this time over the next, I mean, it's a constant journey to integrate soul parts. Because, you know, once they're detached, especially if they've been detached a long time, you know, your kind of fragmented self has got used to not having them there. Okay. So you're not instantly going to go, oh, I'm all whole again. You know, you may have a feeling of that, but it's not going to be really complete without a little bit of effort on your part. So over the next couple of days, I would like you to do something to honor each soul part that has returned back to you. Now, examples. I told you about my 5-year-old soul part. Her message was be in your brilliance. And in the journey, she was this bright little soul skipping along in a red little coat on the beach. So I took to skipping when I was talking to her. And then I kept seeing the word brilliant and be in your brilliance everywhere. And I still do. It still keeps coming up. They just want acknowledgement and owning. There was another soul part of mine where I bought a Raggedy Ann doll. You don't always have to spend money, by the way, but this one demanded that I bought a Raggedy Ann doll because the Raggedy Ann doll was the soft place to land. I needed something soft to cuddle. For a while, I had that doll in bed with me, and now she's actually on my table where I've got, you know, altars and things like that. So it could be, you know, collecting a leaf. If you're not sure, journey back to that soul part and ask them what would help you to integrate them. I would also do, you know, a little bit of journaling to kind of talk to that soul part and ask what they need and how you can best integrate them. Whatever you do, it has to honor them, honor their return. That's the ones that are ready to return. And also just to make them feel welcomed back. Just to, you know, say, hey, kind of, I've missed you, part of my fragmented soul. Let's kind of date each other, if you could say, to kind of build the relationship up again. Because even though a fragmented soul part is a part of you, the two of you have managed to exist without each other for quite some time. Okay, so it's a little like building up a relationship, like in Scorpio and Libra. So, does anybody have anything they want to share about one of their soul parts, or what they're thinking they might need to do over the next couple of days? You know, you don't have to tell us the whole thing. You don't have to tell us why the soul part detached. You know, anybody?
Hey, Louise, it's Lori. I'm happy to share.
Go ahead.
Okay, so something unusual happened. Because I've been doing journey work for so many years, I ended up going to the upper world, and I kept saying, "No, no, no, we're going the wrong direction."
Always trust what you get.
Yeah, we get what we get, and this has never happened before. Instead of retrieving an actual memory or a part of my soul, even particularly a past life aspect, I ended up in in a strange place. Anyway, long story short, I retrieved a planet. And it was my Saturn in the 12th on the cusp of my ascendant. And of course I know the 12th is kind of the closet, but it was just an interesting revelation.
Wow.
And I've got lots of information about the integrating steps as well, including some art around it. But to actually come into a place maybe 3 or 4 years on the outside edge of my Saturn return, to be asked to reclaim the planet itself was really intense, and I've never experienced anything like that.
Wow. No, I've never. That's wonderful.
Yeah, very unusual. Very cool, though.
I mean, yeah, because especially with it being in the 12th, as you said. So to explain to everybody else, planets in the 12th, often the person who has the planet in the 12th kind of can't actually see that energy very well themselves. It's kind of behind them. That's a great way to describe it. This is a person who has Sun in the 12th and Jupiter in the 12th. So it kind of makes sense that you might be at the stage now to actually really integrate that energy that that you've found hard to access. Does that make sense, Laurie?
Yeah. And so sometimes I look at the 12th for me as or anyone too, is a bit like your closet. But I also look at the 12th as a time release house where when a planet that's been tucked away there is safe to access, we're allowed to take it back out. And I did sort of get a flash of a couple past lives, like as generals, kind of commanding the troops to death, and that's very Saturnian, the authority figure. But so therefore I tucked it away for safekeeping until I wouldn't command the troops to death.
Yay.
Yeah, so thank you. It was really, really intense, and I can't wait to get collaging that one.
Oh no, that one's magic. And that's a good idea for other people as well, if you can't think of ways to integrate. So thanks for mentioning that. If you enjoy collage, that's a great way to do it. Journaling's a great way to do it. Drawing, just do whatever you can to start to really connect with that energy of the soul part or soul parts that you have retrieved on this soul retrieval. And just so you know as well, it's not just an one and done thing. That 5-year-old soul part was my first soul retrieval in experience. And I still work with her to this day. I'm not saying it's on her every day, but it keeps coming up over and over again that I have to the message was to be in my brilliance and to remind myself of that all the time. And talking of 12th house planets, Sun in the 12th, it's hard to be in your brilliance with a Sun in the 12th. So it's hard to shine your own sun. So it's a constant reminder. But since I had that soul retrieval experience and I worked with it, that's kind of how I am exactly, Sun in the closet. This is how I'm actually able to do what I do now, because I worked with that and I'm able to let my sun out of the closet a little bit and shine without feeling like I'm too much like, here I am. I have to laugh at myself with my Sun in the 12th house planets are an interesting thing. I would never say anything is better or worse than anything else, but they are, they're an interesting thing to work with. So anybody else before we go? You don't have to share, it's fine. I'd rather you go and, work with it than share if you don't feel ready to share. So No? All righty. Well, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to go and have another lozenge because we're back on Friday to do another one. I don't know about you guys, but I know we're only an hour and nearly an hour and a half of Venus moving back into Libra, but I actually feel a little bit lighter already. So I hope you do already. We're kind of not at the end. We've got 3 more gates to go through. We've got a soul dismemberment journey we're going to do at the end. I've got a couple of other little things over the next couple of calls to do as well. But if you can, and if you get a good view of the eastern horizon, the mountains are a bit in the way for me, get out at dawn and see Venus rising. I don't think I'll see her because of the mountains till she's a bit higher up, and I'm not getting up that early with a cold to go up in the mountains to see. But if you have a good view of the eastern horizons without big mountains in the way, go and see Venus starting to rise as the morning star. Yeah, I'm going to. I'm going to take that magnesium salt bath for sure. I didn't get to do that today, but that's in my plan this evening. So yes, many thanks to you all. I'll get the recording up as quick as I can, and please share your experiences in the group when you're able to, when you feel up to it. Till Friday.